Yes, I quit the carnivore diet. Let's talk about why, and let's just kind of get into some of the positives and negatives of the carnivore diet. But before that, I'm just going to give you a real quick recap of since the last video I've made, which was probably, I want to say in May, maybe, when I had my blood work done for carnivore. And then we will get into some of the reasons why that was the last video I had. So, yes, I quit carnivore. And in this video, what I'd love to do is kind of give you guys a recap of my carnivore journey, what has happened since then, what I'm doing now, and moving into the future, what my plans are when it comes to dieting in general and the carnivore diet more specifically. So if you're new here and you haven't seen my videos from before, drop a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be putting out a lot more content here as we move into the fall and winter. But we're going to talk about one of the reasons why I haven't all summer, and that has a lot to do with the reason why I quit the carnivore diet. So, real fast, where did I come from? What is my starting point when I decided to go carnivore? So, for most of my life, at least the last 30 years, I'm 54 years old, and for at least the last 30 years of my life, I've kind of been struggling with my weight. And when I say that, I don't mean to indicate by any stretch that I'm an obese person. And this is not like a knock on somebody that's obese. I'm just saying for me, my 240 to 250 pounds is a little bit different because I've always been a quote unquote bodybuilder slash power lifter. So what ended up happening was I always kind of took that as, well, you're 250 pounds, but you're a power lifter, so you should have a big belly and you should be a little bit heavier than a normal everyday American when it comes to being obese. Because when I would go to the doctors and he would be like, oh my God, like you're 250 pounds. My justification for that was always, well, I'm a power lifter. That's what I do. So that's kind of how I got past the mental barrier of you are kind of a big fat guy, okay? So I started coaching high school football in 2010, and I was a strength and conditioning coach. So I was always in the weight room. I was always kind of an athlete, and I always did cardio. So I know I said always a lot there, but I've been able to maintain that 240 to 250 pounds mainly because of that reason. Now, I've tried other diets and other things. Fasting was one of them, which fasting, to be honest with you, I was very successful at. And there was a couple years where, in the winter, in the fall and winter, I would be 245 pounds and I would start fasting. And by the spring or summer season, bathing suit season, I would be down in the 230s or the low 230s, mid 230s. And I always kind of felt good about that using fasting. The last couple years, fasting has kind of slowly stopped working for me. And it's probably more my fault than anything else. So whenever I finally figured out this carnivore thing, I started watching Dr. Chafee. I started watching Steak and Butter Gal. I started watching Homestead, the Homestead channel. And I just watched the video of his. I never could remember the whole Homestead Now or Homestead How or something like that. And a couple other guys when it came to the carnivore diet, and I said, wow, like I could do that. Like that's something that I could pull off. So to make a long story short, I decided last fall, right around Christmas, that I was gonna go ahead and start the carnivore diet in January. So January 13th, we started the carnivore diet, and we struggled for that first 2 to 3 weeks to a month started getting easier and easier. And then when you start seeing the results, not only on the scale, but just in your life in general, I looked better, I felt better. And what I'm gonna do is I will actually add some pictures down here, some before and afters to this video, so you can kind of see where I started from and where I ended up. So around April and May, I went back to get my blood work done again, and my blood work was great. So I always had super high triglycerides. My cholesterol was off the scale, and I had some other issues, you know, with sugar and stuff like that. So my blood work was just great. I mean, I haven't seen blood work like this since I've been in my 20s. And so I lost 30 pounds. I was 217 pounds in May, like May 1st, right at the end of April, right at the beginning of May. 217 pounds. My blood work was great. I felt better than I've had in my entire life. And that's where I decided, or that's where the story comes to the point where I quit carnivore. Now, you may be sitting there thinking to yourself, well, I don't understand why you're making this video or why you quit carnivore if all you have is great things to say about it. Yes, all I have is great things to say about it. But the one negative that I have discovered over the last 3 months is, although carnivore is one of the easiest diets that I've ever done, because again, when you think about the carnivore diet, it's so easy, it's so simple, because you know what you're gonna eat. What are you having for dinner tonight? Meat. What are you having for, if you eat more than one meal a day? What are you having for, you know, the morning meal? Eggs. What are you having for dinner tomorrow night? Meat, eggs, bacon. It's the simplest, most straightforward diet that you can have. But what ended up happening to me is what we're gonna talk about next. So, this is where it kind of gets a little bit personal. So I apologize in advance. And again, I'm kind of not gonna, you know, it's not gonna be anything weird or anything, but it gets very, very personal. I have 2 sons. One of them's in college. The other one was a senior in high school. And right around the 1st of May, he ended up getting into a small accident and totaling his car. Now, he was okay. Everything was fine. And actually, the car wasn't really damaged that bad, but just the way he wrecked, he damaged the car, or the car was totaled. So it was right when he was about to graduate, and you know, we didn't really have the immediate funds. Like, we couldn't go out tomorrow and get him a car, so he was going to be without a car for a couple weeks. No big deal. Then we ended up getting him another car. A few weeks after that, which was right around Memorial Day, I think it was actually on Memorial Day, the same son ended up getting in a pretty catastrophic accident. He was in a 4-wheeler with him and his buddies. That's for another video, my feelings on 4-wheelers and motorcycles and ATVs and stuff like that. That'll be for another video. But he was in a 4-wheeler and ended up getting into a very catastrophic accident. Thank God, number one, that he didn't lose his life, because it was that bad. Secondly, originally what happened was that the 4-wheeler rolled over. He was thrown out because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. That's on him, understood. But he ended up getting crushed by the ATV, and it ended up breaking his, what's the lower bone? Tibia? Fibia? Whatever the lower bone is in the leg. Broke it and just severely broke it. Sliced his leg wide open. Originally, when we first went to the hospital, there were some mumblings about whether they were even going to be able to save the leg, you know, and as a parent, it just was just shocking and very, very scary. Ended up, just to kind of give a wrap up on this, it kind of went well. That the surgery was in surgery all day. The surgery went very well, and everything was fine for him to start his recovery. Well, after a week and a half of recovery, he came home, and that weekend, our dog passed away. She was 14, sweetest little thing. And I'm not going to try to go into, like, I don't want to stretch this out into a million minute long video here. Our dog passed away. So he was recovering. He wasn't mobile. He was bedridden, so he couldn't even come out, when we had to do the thing. And so it was a very traumatic experience for all of us. Now, we've had dogs all of our life, and we've had dogs pass away and whatnot, but this one was just so sudden and so shocking, and the fact that my sons couldn't be there is pretty traumatic. So what's the point of this story? The point of this story was that point that I could no longer mentally maintain carnivore. It just, I reverted back to my addiction. And this is kind of where this came full circle for me. And I learned so much in that little bit of time about my mentality, about the carnivore diet, and continuing through with the carnivore diet. So I mentally broke down. And as any addict, and I say addict because I was addicted, and my addiction was food. Now, it wasn't an addiction like you would say, oh, well, you're eating, 30,000 calories a day and you're pounding, you're pounding Snickers bars and whatever else. It was more of a sense of I had zero control over my portions. So again, not a big, overweight, obese guy, but when I would eat 4 or 5 different servings of pasta. I'll just give you an example. When this all happened, I went from 100% strict carnivore to eating, one night I came home and I think I ate a whole 6-pack of Klondikes. It was that kind of thing. So my mentality just spiraled out of control. I became, a little bit personal here, I became depressed. I started having anxiety. I couldn't sleep at night. So it was very, very difficult for me to get by this. And I just felt like there was no way that I could try to continue down carnivore while I was feeling this way. And like any addict, I went right back to where my addiction was, and that was food. So fast forward to now, I've kind of gained back most of the weight that I lost on carnivore. I'm back in the mid 240s. So I think last time I weighed myself, I was 243. So now 243 pounds. I haven't been back to the doctor, but I can just imagine that my blood work is right back where it was in the dumpster. I can imagine my doctor's going to be very, very disappointed when I go back because my blood work was so good in April. He is going to be a little bit aggravated that my blood work will have gone back to being a dumpster fire. Okay, so that's basically getting you caught up to where I am now and how and why I quit carnivore. Now, what did I learn? I learned that carnivore is a lot about mentality. Now, there's going to be carnivores out there that say that's not really true. Once you get on carnivore, you can just kind of go with the flow. For me, it is absolutely 100% about continuing a positive mentality. And one of the reasons why I think with myself is this. So again, I told you that I was a high school football coach. I coached 14 years, high school football, strength and conditioning coach. So I was always the rah-rah guy. I was always the positive guy. I was always the motivational guy. I was always the intense, like, we can do this, the cup half full guy. That was me. And I never allowed myself to be anything but that. And when this happened and the depression started and the anxiety started, I had no way of controlling it. So I actually had a conversation with a buddy of mine, and he said, well, I've had anxiety and depression most of my life. You are so lucky that you never had to deal with anxiety and depression, Greg. And I was like, yeah, but also at the same time, I don't know how to control it because I've never had it. So even though, yes, it's great that I haven't had to contend with that all my life, now that I had it, or now that I have it and had it, I didn't know how to get past it. I didn't know how to control it. It just really spiraled me out of control. And so that was the main problem. And trying to stack carnivore on top of that, to me, was just a hill that I could not climb. And then what really happens though is it's almost like a tornado that you can't get out of, guys, right? So you're already depressed, you're already having anxiety, and as men, especially as men, and if women, if you're listening to this, I'm with you too. I know you guys go through a lot of stuff, but men, I think, aren't allowed to be depressed or aren't allowed to have anxiety. It's just like society-wise. I know it's a little bit different now than when I was growing up in the 80s, that like you were absolutely not allowed to show emotion. You were absolutely not allowed to have anxiety or depression as a man. I think that men, we don't talk about it as much, and that needs to change. And one of the things I want to do moving forward with my carnivore videos is reach out to you guys that might be struggling with this. If you're overweight and it's your mentality, it's not really that you can't do it, but you just can't mentally overcome it. We are going to talk. We're going to sit down and we are going to have conversations, and I will have some links, and we can reach out and we can talk to each other and we can support each other as men. And so anyway, that's the one thing that was so hard for me to overcome. And then what ends up happening, going back to the tornado effect, is now you're off of carnivore, so you're feeling a lot worse. Like, so you're not sleeping as good because the carnivore was really making me sleep great. Sleep is now interrupted. And then now you see the scale start to inch back up. That creates depression. That creates a sense of failure. And I know once I started seeing the scale go from 217 to 222 to 227 to 230, that really then added to the depression and added to the anxiety, because all that work that I put in for almost 6 months was now out the window. And that was very, very difficult for me. So moving forward, where am I at? What am I doing? Well, to kind of put a positive spin on all this, I learned so much. And now I feel like I can take this carnivore to the next level. Now I'm going to start small. I'm not going to do what I did last year, where I went from 100% standard American diet to 100% carnivore in one day. So the last week and a half, it is October 1st. The last week and a half, I have been doing kind of a keto-ish diet. And this week, I started back to 100% carnivore. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different levels. Like, if you guys check out my other videos, there's a lot of different levels of carnivore. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to just kind of go with a vanilla carnivore, where I still had some spices, I still had some sauces, I still had some zero sugar stuff, which I get it. Like, there's a lot of chemicals and stuff in the zero sugar stuff. So I don't want to, moving forward, I want to kind of wean that away. But starting carnivore again, I felt like that was okay to do, at least for 2 weeks or so. And I've already felt a difference. So to the haters of carnivore, and again, maybe it's just me, but I hear it so often that this is the diet that's gonna make you feel better. It's a diet that's gonna make you sleep better. It's gonna make your life better. It's gonna make your intimate health better. It's gonna make all that better. It's true. Like, it's true. I don't want to be like a rah-rah cheerleader for carnivore. Look, if carnivore doesn't work for you, that's okay. If keto works for you, good on you. If portion control works for you, good on you. But for me, I really want to get back to the carnivore lifestyle, because it is truly something that changed my life. And now that I'm 54 years old, I want to be around for the next 25 years. And, talking to my doctors and talking to people that are out there in the profession, with my blood work and stuff like that, it was really starting to get scary. So guys, I hope that video didn't ramble on too much today. I just really needed to put this down on a video and talk about failure and failing in the carnivore diet. And so the last thing I want to talk about, and then we will wrap this video up in a nice bow, and we'll talk about some other things in some other videos, because like I said, I'm going to be putting out some more carnivore videos because I am so motivated right now to move forward in my life on carnivore. But the last thing I want to talk about is failure. And I want to tell you this, and look at me, I'm telling you, if you are in a situation where you fail at the carnivore diet, don't beat yourself up. Don't hate yourself. Like, just get back to it. Just make up your mind, okay, and maybe you fail for a month, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days like me. I was on 90 days, I think I failed. It's okay. Just start over. Just get back to it. Just pick yourself up and move forward, because that's what you have to do. Now, don't use that as a crutch. Don't use failure as a crutch. And what I mean by that is, don't say to yourself, well, you know what, I can fail this weekend and I'll just get back on carnivore next Monday. Or I can fail this week and I'll just get back on carnivore next week. Because when you start doing that, then you start getting to a point where you feel like, okay, well, I wasn't carnivore for this weekend and I can maybe stretch it in the Monday or Tuesday, and then I'll just get back on carnivore Wednesday. That starts the tornado effect. But if you fail once in a while, don't worry about it. Just refocus, resettle, meditate on it a little bit, pray on it if that's your thing, and really set yourself back up. You will learn so much. You know, one thing I will tell you is you will learn so much through failure. You will learn so much more. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here, but you will learn so much more through failure than you ever will through success. It's okay to fail, guys. So that's kind of the video for today. I hope it wasn't too long, and if you stayed around till the end, I really appreciate you. Leave me a comment, leave me a like, subscribe to my channel. We got some great content moving forward on the carnivore diet and the motivational side and mentality side of it all. So guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. Thank you for listening to my problems. It's great to vent them and get them on video. And like I said, please reach out to me if you are in the same position. Anyway, Carnivore Coach Greg, I will be talking to you guys soon. And like I always say, LFG. Talk to you guys later.